So, A&B is the greatest archive anyone could ever ask for.
You know, of all the books I've read, of all the other online tutorials I've seen, this was the missing key.
Every video is like packed with this information that I would never be able to get anywhere else. So I would say this is the greatest resource for learning animation.
For me, A&B Animation Library is hands down the best animation learning resource that I've seen. I've tried all the tutorials, I've gotten all the books. I've never been able to really grow until I found A&B.
And it's incredible. I've only just begun it, but I definitely am getting more from that than I did from my 1.5 years of college.
I've noticed definitely that my animation has improved a lot, and it's more alive than ever. And what I also like about this animation training is that you also gain real confidence.
Real Animator Training Library is unequivocally the best resource for animation, 2D animation, traditional hand-drawn animation that I've seen.
So I wholeheartedly recommend the A&B Real Animator Training Library to anybody who wants actual knowledge and actual applicable concepts to create their own animation and to move forward in the field of animation and to set your work above those that are just kind of teaching themselves and not learning these tried and true classic concepts.
A&B is motivated by his students' successes and improvements. He's a great teacher, a great animator with over 20 years experience in the industry, so you can't really get much better than that. I strongly recommend him to anybody.
I'm thinking on how to put in words what I feel about it. I love that. It approached me from my dream of becoming an animator. Every cent I paid in there was worth it.
I like that the library is structured. I can go back and watch it anytime I want to, and he's just got so much knowledge. And I just highly recommend it to anyone who's out there looking to learn traditional 2D animation.
So thank you, MB, so much. And thank you so much for all you done for me.
So, are you gonna join the library?
Hello real animators, hello and welcome to another edition of A&B Animation Livestream. Alright, so as we're getting into this Halloween thing, I'm going to be continuing with the thriller animation that I am doing featuring the Gracie Good Bear character. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be talking about learning how to utilize reference, because the previous scene that I did on this, I just looked and then interpreted, but now as we're getting more into the dance moves and stuff like that, I've got to kind of look, because I'm not a great dancer, and I don't really know the thriller dance anyway. If I'm honest, it's not one of my favorite MJ songs. I like Smooth Criminal and Beat It and Give In To Me and Dirty Diana and the more rocking ones. But, you know, Thriller is a cool video and it's very themed for the Halloween thing. And Gracie likes Thriller, so she's the one that's doing the dance, not me. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at the Thriller video, and I'm going to be interpreting the moves. Right, before we begin, we have got people saying hello in the chat. We've got Cameron Allen Davidson Black. How are you, sir? We have got Cameron, just a suggestion. As you're doing your steam engines, I want you to really try to think about the perspective drawing that you're learning when you're doing it, right? Really take some time and try not to get the details of the steam engine. Try to do it as simple shapes like perspective, like that, and really try and I might give you a quick example before I begin drawing with the Gracie and stuff. Charlene, how are you? Good to see you. I'm absolutely loving your videos. You've got such a charm and cute cuteness to your little characters. You can't help but smile when you see it. I love the spider, Gloria the spider. What a cute character. The lovely Hervonia Baker has graced us in the chat today. And we have got Hervonia. I see you working at anatomy. Try to not to spend so much time on trying to get everything perfect. Just fill a whole sketchbook with really quick shapes, just really quick scribbles and shapes. Get used to fast drawing, right? Fast, careless drawing, right? And then do that like a workout, and then do 1 or 2 drawings where you really care about it, right? And you try. Or just having one drawing of the scapula, that time that you're spending trying to do that, you're focusing on hand-eye coordination and all that. You're not really focusing on the scapula, you know, and the scapula in relation to the clavicle. You know how I do it in the library, the micro and the macro. That's kind of like, I know you've got access to that anatomy archive, so that kind of thing. So there we go. We have got Cameron, Charlene, and Hervonia in the chat. A lovely saying hello to you. Let's switch over now. So let's turn off the double mic. Okay, so this animation, I'm now, you've noticed I'm using a, tell me if my mic's fine. You've noticed that I'm using like a more pencil style brush, and this is a vector brush. So I didn't bank on it being like slowing my, this is a really powerful machine, right? Super powerful machine, but I didn't bank on, when I scrub it, it slows. So you can't really see the action of what we've got at the moment. Cheers, Cameron. So what I'm going to do is I filmed the line test. So I'm going to bring in the line test so you can kind of see how that works, where we are right now. Bum, bum, bum. So here it is. So she looks, walks forward, does that weird little head jerk thing going on there. So this was very much an interpretation of what I saw from the video, right? It wasn't so much looking at reference. It was, I looked at the reference and then I kind of interpreted it and just did my own thing, right? But now I'm gonna have to be making some studies because I'm gonna stay in this. I'm gonna kind of storyboard on the fly as I do this thing. So I'm gonna stay in this scene and she's gonna do the next move, right? She's gonna do the next move, but I don't really know what the next move is. So I'm going to go on to, I've got another window open here and I'm going to do some drawings, right? So I'm going to figure out the next pose that she's going to be in is going to be this kind of pose, right? So I'm going to make some quick reference drawings here. Now, Cameron, Hervonia, and possibly Charlene, take note of how I make reference from live action, right? I'm just going to draw a straight line here. I'm going to do something like this, right? And the video I'm looking at is not Michael Jackson, right? My wife said to me, why are you looking at these girls instead of Michael Jackson? I said, because they're girls. And I can look at the shapes of their body angles, because Jackson's a guy, so his hip and line, shoulder line and counterbalances is all going to be different, right? So yeah, they don't dance as well as MJ, but neither is Gracie. I want a good reference, right? So that's my study of the live action, right? So when I make live action reference studies, that's enough for me, right? If I wanted to, just to show you, if I wanted to turn this into a life drawing, right, I could essentially start working, you know, on top of it, like this, like the whole, you know, my pencil not leaving the page thing, right? Where I'm just kind of looking at the outfit, right? So I could be slower, but truth be told, I don't really need to draw like this to study for my animation, because it's just like what I'm doing now is like studying form, hand-eye coordination, right? Right? So this kind of drawing is very valuable for you, Hervonia, right? To build on your drawing and on your habits of how you draw, right? So this is gonna be here, right? Like this. So I'm gonna do just this one to kind of show you that it is indeed a live action thing I'm looking at. And I'm very quiet while I'm doing it because I'm getting the hand-eye coordination in there. Right. Okay, so that's a study of a live action thing. But I don't really need that, so I'm going to get rid of that and focus on the original thing I did. Because the original thing I did is what I'm more interested in, right? I'm more interested in getting the pose, right? So she's going to hit this pose, but before she gets into that pose, I have to kind of see the moves that she makes. Okay, so this, before we get into this pose, there's, right, the two legs come together, right? Or this leg comes off the ground, right? And this turns out, right? So I'm going to say this turns out, and we go on our tippy toes here like this, right? The funny thing is for the first bit of reference that I used, I looked at Michael Jackson, right? Because he's making his zombie faces and he's doing his zombie moves, right? And quite frankly, these girls don't really pull that off as well as he does. So, and I'm basing it on his thing. But for the dance, I'm going to be looking at them because it makes my life easier with how the female body will go, right? Then, sorry, so then the next thing she does before getting into this pose, so I've jumped the gun a bit, is, right, she crosses her arm, this arm's crossed over there, she's got her hand open. Notice how I'm doing the hand and all that. I'm not trying to really make a really good life drawing. I'm just trying to get the essence of the pose, right? So this comes out here like this. Then the jacket, it's quite a, wearing that jacket's quite difficult because a lot of the form is lost, right? So her knee, she's kicked out her leg, right, like this, and the other leg is bent like that, right? but this leg is kicked out, right? And her head is this way. Okay, so I have got this pose here again. So we go from this to this to this, right? But is there another one? So I'm kind of figuring out my live action keys, right? I'm doing the same thing that I would do if I was, you've seen me studying animation breakdowns, but I'm doing it very quickly with a bit of live action. But then I'm going to push on these live action poses, because Gracie Goodbear is a very larger than life cartoony character. So I don't want to just stick to this, right? I'm going to really push these poses, right? So this knee comes up like this, right? And the other knee is still to the ground here like this, right? So this is off the ground. I'm going to emphasize that by coloring that in, right? I'm going to emphasize this front leg by coloring that in, right? So that curls up like that, right? So this foot steps to the side and this leg kicks out, right? The knee comes up and it kicks out. So I'm familiarizing myself with the movement. Now, are we going to hit this last pose just yet? Okay. It comes down and then she squats, right? So her pose is very different from MJ's pose. Actually, MJ's arms are not so splayed apart like the way these girls are, right? But I kind of want it to be bigger because it's a cartoon character, right? So she's not squat yet. Now I'm gonna do something different with these arms when I animate with Gracie, because I don't just want to do the exact Thriller dance. Otherwise, you can find it already. People have already started to animate the Thriller dance with AI, right? And you can already find, you know, they're trying to do Studio Ghibli ones, and they're trying to do, and it looks bullshit. But then there's that typical one that's rotoscoped the Jackson move with AI, but put the filter on it, right? So there would be no point in me trying to completely recapture. And I'm glad that AI is here, because animators should never be just completely trying to copy the live action or whatever. It's there as an inspiration, right? So here are my references for the first section of getting into this pose. And then once she gets into this pose, we're gonna cut, right? We're gonna cut, right? So the first one that I want to be looking at is that one. So let me change those colors like that so they don't dominate. Kevin Silver, how are you? So now I'm not going to draw with my pencil at the moment, right? Because if I do that, then we're going to have trouble scrubbing, because it takes too much memory to draw with that pencil on this thing. It's a vector thing. Shouldn't do. This is a very powerful machine. You know, it costs an arm and a leg. Right, so let's first get into this pose here, right? So I'm gonna I know what she does with her legs, so her foot's gonna go a bit low, but that's okay. I'm gonna have her foot go low like that because we're gonna cut, right? Normally I wouldn't want her this low in the camera frame, and we can always reframe later. Like, I haven't really, this is a very rushed animation what I'm doing, right? I haven't really planned this. It's something festive for the mood. It's quick, raw content being put out. Right. I like that. So I'm going to look at the essence of this pose. This pose is the end pose, so I'm going to really pay attention to it. So we've got this going on here, and we've got this going on here, right? So hips and shoulders are countering. I want the head to counter, or do I want the head to remain like this? Her head is pretty square on, but we'll figure that out. Right. Okay, so now I'm going to make my Gracie pose out of this, right? So the Gracie construction is just a bunch of shapes like this, right? So the contour is twisting, right? So the body is kind of to the side here, and there's more of the front chest coming here while the body is twisting to the side, right? So I'm going to put this side line here to get the contouring in, right? And I'm dealing with this middle section like a trunk like this, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the legs, right? I'm going to put in the legs like this, right? And we're going to move those feet down just a bit, right? Like that. And the other foot is going to go in like this. And what that tells me is I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to have to change this up a bit, right? If I want this to work. So I'm going to draw it here, but I don't know if I want that foot to the side. We'll see, because it's kind of putting that foot back now. But this is where we're going to be changing the live action, right? So this leg is going to be here like this. If I look at that, this leg is more forward and this leg is to the back. So that's, I don't want to lose that from the live action, because that gives me, that actually changes my body, giving me more of an inward and outward thing like that, which is what we want with Gracie Goodbear. You know, it might cause a lot of fuss with some on the internet, but not me and not the people who like it, right? So Gracie Goodbear is all about curves, so we want to accentuate those, right? So we're going to have it move like this. So the middle line is there like that, right? And the clavicle is going to be there like that, right? So now I'm going to think about the hands, right? So I might have this hand go down a bit and be less straight, right? And then make the fingers a little bit stiff like that, right? And then think about the same thing on this side, right? Just to keep that girly element in there, right? Because Gracie Goodbear is a very girlish, girly girl, giggling girl kind of character. She's not, you know, what some people, like a badass. That's not her, right? So the head is gonna be like this. Now I'm gonna keep the head on the front view, but I'm gonna angle it. I've decided to angle it down because it looks nice like that. So I want to get the shapes right before I start to draw this in, because this pose is this is like, I'm taking the live action reference that I've just done and I'm doing pose to pose animation here, right, based on that. Hey, who we got online now? We've got Lady Tigry Comics has joined us. Good to see you. That drawing of the groundhopper, the great one, really made me laugh. Right, so I'm gonna move this hair right more central, because that foot takes a little turn out to the side and she's gonna move right down there. Now I'm really uncomfortable about her moving to that low in the frame, so I may have to reframe this animation, but that's okay, because this is the cut point. This is where we're gonna cut, right? So if I am now gonna, first I'm gonna look at that works on inverse. Now I'm gonna start drawing this pose in a little bit more, right? So let's just make it a color like that, right? So I'm gonna use a thinner brush, and what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna really just get my shapes and my silhouette, right? Because if it looks good in the silhouette, right, then I know that I'm onto something, right? So that foot steps forward like that, and then we've got that foot at the side. And I'm not gonna be drawing the, when I do the breakdowns, right, and I do the breakdowns or some really like subtle keys, right, I won't bother to work out the construction and the anatomy so much, right? But when I'm doing these main poses like this, I'm gonna focus on getting the anatomy pretty spot on, well, the cartoon anatomy, right? So we'll have less of the side contour here, but then more of the side contour here like this, right? So the rib cage will be kind of here like this, the belly will be here, right? Then the leg will be here like this, and then this will be, so the way that you determine breasts on a female character, right? So you want to think of it like the pectoral muscles are like this, right? So you got your deltoid muscle coming here, right? Your front deltoid, your side deltoid coming into the upper pecs, right? Like this. This is what I laugh. When I animate this character, I get all these funny comments in the chat. Now, I'm not trying to get out of it. I like pin-up art. I like the female form, and I enjoy drawing it. But you get all these comments like, yeah, man, you animated that with one hand, ha 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 ha, and all that. Like, if these cretins only knew that when you're actually drawing and animating, it becomes a very clinical process, right? Where literally you're just working on the anatomy if you actually care about how good it looks. So I'm using this as an opportunity to help you understand. A lot of their mentality would just be to draw whatever they want to draw, and they think that real good artists are like that. No. We've got to focus on getting things right? So the glands will come off like this, right? And then you want it, although Gracie is bigger in that area, you want it to feel convincing and natural. So you will draw something on top, like that, right? And that's all it is to it. There's nothing, it's very anatomical, and it's a process of getting the construction right so that you can do the drapery correct. Essentially, that's what it all is. I'm gonna redo that because I selected that in the wrong color, so I'm going to put that as that color for now. So if any of you who are watching who get a little bit sensitive about stuff like this, listen, art class, art school, anatomy is what it's all about. And life drawing and all that is one of the aspects of it. Being able to draw the human figure correctly, right? So, we're now going to draw put the head on, right? And I'm going to be flipping from that to that. And what I will do is I'm going to look at Michael Jackson's impression of expression, because I don't want to look at this girl's expression. So bear with me. I'm going to say Thriller Dance. Thriller Dance. And I'm going to see, is his mouth open on this particular pose or no? So just bear with me, the stupid ad is playing right now. See, he's biting his bottom lip. He's making some seriously weird expressions, and that's what I like about this, right? So I'm looking at him, and his body's not even full in the screen. What a face. What a face. Okay, he's biting his bottom lip. He's biting his bottom lip. So that's what we're going to be doing, right? So we're going to have her biting her bottom lip. So, and his head is angled this way, right? So we're going to keep this bottom lip thing. His eyes are closed in this pose, but I'm going to keep them open for this pose. Right? I'm going to have her eyes open. And we're going to have her biting her bottom lip. But I want to put a smile because Gracie smiles. She's having fun. She's not as... Right? And then we're just going to do that under there like that. Right? So she's going to be biting her bottom lip. And I might go, as I storyboard this, I might focus on her face, right? Because part of the charm of creating a character that connects with people, like you could do the whole, I'm just going to appeal to the people who are into the sexual stuff and focus on the body movements and the hips swaying and all that. But I don't want to do that. I want people to fall in love with Gracie completely, right? I don't want them to just a certain kind of person to say, yeah, that's cool, that's what I want, that's what it's all about, right? So I'm going to focus a lot on her facial mannerisms and make them really, you know, adorable, really, so that when you watch it, you, even if like you're one of the people who are like, you know, don't really approve of Generation X content, or, you know, Generation Y, Generation X content, and you like the way things are now, you're still gonna look at elements of it and say, oh, that's cute. You know, that's my hope when I do this character. I don't, I've got to be me. I've got to do the things that I like, Generation X content, but I don't, you know, you can't please everybody, but I don't want to alienate people. If people are just so against it, they're against it, but I want like the people who are just can just appreciate it for what it is to appreciate it, right? So I'm gonna think about the hair a little bit later, right? Gotta have super long hair. All AMB female characters will have super long hair. It's probably the Indian in me that likes that, right? So we're gonna do that, right? And so that's the pose, right? Now I'm gonna start adding the garments on there. I can't remember the last time I watched the actual video. I remember this long intro with him giving his girlfriend the ring. Yeah, he kind of started the whole music video thing. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm going to draw this pose in, right? So now we've got a character to work from. So you see how the live action pose, right? I'm gonna bring that. It's. So now I'm going to start putting the costume on, right? So the costume, we've got the collars, which are hair like this, and then the bottom of the jacket, which comes like this, right? And then the jacket will come off like that. And then this part of the jacket will have the bottom button, and then the middle button there is 3 like that. Now the collar will come round like this, right? And I want to, because I'm kind of turning the body this way, right? I want to maybe have the collar face this way, right? But then I will now look at this trick I'm doing here, right? Pay attention if you're interested in drawing drapery, right? I've got this line here and I've got this line here, right? Now I'm going to have the top collar facing this way on the line, but the bottom collar is going to be open, right? Because the bust is coming around, right? So it's going to be causing this thing to be open. But notice how it's just 2 like zigzag shapes on a line like that creates the illusion of that. Obviously when we draw it in, we'll be a bit more like, we'll try and capture the look a bit more, but that's essentially what it is. Now this collar is going to be open, right? Going to be open here. Now as this opens here, there's another button that closes, right? So we're going to curl that round and we're going to have that button that closes going on top, right? So can you see how everything kind of sits on lines, right? Sits on lines like that. So hopefully I've given away some really nice tips to you if you're looking to improve your drawing and getting things down quick in that regard. Now we've got this sleeve, right? But before we do the sleeve, there's this part of the jacket, right? So again, I'm gonna curl it here. Now, what it does is it comes to the middle of this second button, right? Like that. And I'm gonna put like a little crease on there, right? And then this comes to the middle of the top button, right? Like that. And the same thing on this side, right? So this is gonna come. We're gonna think about the you can't do it like that because you want to balance it with the contour. You want to imagine the contour of the body. I don't want this to be a super live action, like this is simple. We're simplifying the cartoon, so I'm not going to have it curl around there and contour the breast like that. That's too much for the style, right? So we're just going to just bring it out a bit and bring it in, so it balances the space on this side with this side, right? So this balancing thing is very important when you're doing. So now we've got that shape there. Can you see how we've got that shape happening there? So the sleeves are going to come right here like this, right? The way I've drawn Gracie here is more to her model, because Gracie's got a thicker kind of figure, so I'm not going to change it, right? It's all rough animation anyway, which is a plus for me, because I don't have to really go overboard tidying it up, right? I'm going to toy with the idea of, right, you want to see this colored and tidied up, I'm going to do a mini crowdfunder test, because I want to get this AMB animation project crowdfunding thing going. So I need to find a way to serve people so that they'll be willing to see it, and they'll be willing to put forward small donations, right? Like a Patreon, but I don't want to go to the Patreon website, right? I want to do it as AMB animation projects, right? So we've got something like that now, right? So now we have the belly, right? So I'm gonna kind of, there's a twist, right? So her belly button's gonna be here, so I've got to kind of like think about the character's model, right? Her belly button's here. Now she's got a little bit of bulge, right? And that kind of now her oblique will come out. She's twisting, so the bulge will not really show there, but so that bulge will be the belly, right? The belly will there, and then under there. So then we want to think about the hip bone, right, on this side, where the belly will fit, right? The belly will fit on the hip bone on this side. So her pants, right, they normally come to the bottom of, to just cut into the bottom of the belly right there like that, right? So we're gonna do that, right? We're gonna get that in there, and we're gonna have that little bit of belly there, because that adds to the character's design, right? And we got like this going on here like that, right? So those pants are gonna be there like that. Now here we've got, I'm just gonna put one line here and one line there, and that's it, right? So then we're gonna just go around the shape of the legs, like this. And the boots are quite easy, right? We're going to do the whole thing. So imagine like the whole anatomy thing down the side here, right? Like this. She's on her tiptoes. And that's where her three little toes come in, but that becomes her stiletto, right? And that comes like that, right? And before I do that, I'm going to get the other leg in, right? I'm going to kind of like, I'm not going to keep it back like exactly on the same line. I'm going to think of the negative space here, right? And I'm going to bend it a little bit, right? In like that, right? So then that, if that was to go more like that, I'm cheating the anatomy. See, this is one of my weaknesses, is I'm not very, I really don't like to play with anatomy too much, but sometimes you got to cheat it because it's more appealing, right? So I really want that knee to go beyond that point. But let's just do that, right? So there. So now we've got, like, we can feel, can you see how this curl hair, you can feel the pressure on this leg being more on the heel, right? On the tiptoe, right? So then the boots. The boots. I'm going to focus on, like, okay, the space between the knee and the cuff of the boot, right? It's going to be like that. Right? The other one you won't see, right? Now, this is very easy. We've just got, like, we're going to break these leg warmer style things, these 80s leg warmer style things, into sections, right? And voila, right? Done. So, we have got that to that, right? So what I'm going to do is, before I go and start, so you can see, like, this is the live action reference. I made this quick scribble from live action, and I've made my pose off it, right? So before I go and break it down and do the rest of it, I am going to finalize this, tie down this pose, right? Now, the way I can tie down this pose, and I don't recommend tying down this pose like this if you're a beginner, but I like to save time and I don't hide anything from you all. So I'm going to flip the drawing to see, does it work in inverse? Now, when it works pretty much perfectly in inverse, except for a little imbalance on the face. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to start drawing in the face a bit better because I rushed it, right? Brush is a little thick there. Let's bring it down to 8, right? Because I rushed it. Right, so you'll notice that real animators, we don't really free transform the drawing or pull or cut bits of the drawing out and rearrange it, right? If you're really pushed for time and you're working to a deadline, or you just don't give a shit, then you can do that. But if you haven't got the skill to draw balanced anyway, I highly recommend that you don't do that. I highly recommend that you take the opportunity to train your left-right brain, and not only do you redraw things, you also improve the drawing, you improve your ability to draw, and your subconscious is able to start seeing things. So you'll notice when I flip the drawing over, it's pretty spot on, right? With a few imbalances in the face, it's pretty spot on. I don't really need to change much about it, right? So I'm gonna have her biting her bottom lip here, so I'm gonna start putting just a little bit of creases on the side there. Give her that bottom lip. Now here's where the imbalance occurs, right? So I'm gonna look at the angle of the head. And then the angle of the cheeks on this side. Right. And it's also to do with the clavicle, right? So her parting, her side parting is here like this. Right. So we get that framed nicely. We can see, right, that her hair can come over this side like this. So this is another trick, right? Admittedly, it's not something I would recommend if you're an intermediate or a beginner, right? If you're an intermediate and a beginner, I would recommend that you do your animation and get your movement right first, right? You're not saving time doing this. But if you are more advanced, and when I mean advanced, you can be a pro, but that doesn't mean you're a good animator, right? I mean, like, you got to be honest with yourself that you're pretty up there in your skill set in terms of animation and drawing. That you can start to tie down these poses, like what I'm doing here, before doing the rest of the stuff, because that's the real way of being fast, right? How many seconds is this have I done already, right? So this is over 5 seconds of animation that I've done in a few days, right? It's rough, but it's pretty clean as well, right? And most of it is on twos with a few fours in there, right? It's rough, so the volumes aren't Loctite because of the pencil widths and all that causing imbalances here, like when she walks forward a little bit there. So, but it's good enough for a rough, nice, appealing line test, right? So I can knock that out in a few days, right? Because I'm kind of working like this. I know that this ski is good, it's perfect, it's gonna be amazing, and I'm ready to jump in and tie it down, and then work on my breakdown drawings, and that'll kind of cause the volumes to be intact early on. Now I know a lot of you beginners are so obsessed with you think good animation is solid animation. That's not true. Good animation is not even flowing animation. Flowing is a good word, but I think people think flowing is fluidity, right? Fluid animation is not good animation, right? Good animation is appealing, timing, good, clean but clever, distinctive, definitive arcs, and exhibition of all 12 laws of the animation. We're talking timing, slow in, slow out, arcing, follow through, overlap and drag, pose to pose, straight ahead, solid drawing, squash and stretch, appeal, exaggeration, primary and secondary action, staging, right? We're talking all those things. Anticipation, of course, right? We're talking all these things are what good animation is. So if you're not able to naturally do those things, right? And if you're honest with yourself, you may have a vague grasp of those things, but when you work, you don't really think about those things. Then I suggest you hold back on tidying up the drawing right now, right? Before you start doing any other movements. I like doing it on a live stream because live streams are also about demonstration, right? This isn't a training video. It's kind of like a seminar, if you like a seminar of all of the things that are required to produce a great piece of animation, right? We've looked at live action reference. I've created an extreme pose based on that live action reference, and now I'm locking that pose down, right? But it would be a good idea if you were not so advanced that you don't lock any drawings down and you get your movement right. I commented to Charlene, who saw my animation of Gracie that I just played you. For me, the first part of this animation was the hardest part, right? The part where she's doing her zombie transformation and those weird cricks in the neck. Because even when I look at Michael Jackson doing that, I'm like, whoa, that's weird. And if that's done the wrong way, that can look like you're mocking a certain kind of person or whatever. So I don't want to do that. I want to be very, very careful with this. So for me, that was a really difficult thing to do. Doing all the dance moves and all that it's piss easy, right? I don't think I'll be challenged at all, right? Just look at the live action reference, push it, create an appealing cartoon drawing on top. Now I know that me saying that might frustrate some of you because that's probably a really hard thing to do, but I'm trying to illustrate that the more advanced you get in animation, the flamboyant movements are actually the easier aspect, which is why I always go back to the whole Sakuga moving camera thing, right? You're just watching quick movements, and yes, you can get those movements beautiful with flowing arcs and definitive things, but if you know how to animate and you've looked at your reference, bingo, right? What makes it hard is, like I said, right, I don't want this to be something that AI can just piss out, right? You can already see Michael Jackson Thriller AI videos with their uncanny rotoscoping with a filter, Snapchat style filter on top of the actual Thriller dance, or some awful kind of cutout style thing trying to look like Studio Ghibli or whatever, right? You know, it's not gonna be pretty, right? So I want this to feel very animated, very like classically animated, in a way that like AI would never think like this, right? Because classical animation is, yes, it's pose to pose and straight ahead, but when you're at this high kind of like old school Disney level, it's gonna be more a case of spontaneity in the movements as well, right? So the last thing I want to do is just try to rip off the Thriller dance completely. Okay, so here we have our pose, right? Right, and what I think is I'm gonna, although she's like that, I'm gonna shrink her down just a bit. So here I am using the free transform to save time. I'm going to shrink her down a bit because I think her volumes are a little too big on that. So there. So now I have ignored all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've jumped straight into this key, right? So she goes into this pose. So she's here. She does her neck jolt, right? It takes time with this. That's why I've changed my brush to the classic vector brush, because this brush, if I try to scrub this, even though this is a super powerful HP workstation with so many core processors, it can't really scrub that, right? So that it'll scrub that much, right? But if you want to see the whole thing up until that point, so she'll look at the screen, hang on, she'll look at the camera, she'll turn into a zombie, walk, camera pulls back, that weird head twitch, head twitch, and then she's gonna jump into this pose, right? So the next shot, actually, which I've got in my head, right, which I'm not really gonna focus on right now, because I'm storyboarding on the fly too, which if you're a beginner you should never do. I know I am always saying don't do this, and I go ahead and do this, but listen, I've worked 20 years in the industry in a number of positions. One of those positions was a head of story on a feature film, also a lead story artist, and another one of those positions was an animation director, right? So I've done it all, and I can kind of do it on the fly, but these are separate skills that need to be learned in stages, and that's what the Real Animator Training Library is all about. But we're not talking about that right now, we're talking about this. So my next idea is while she's doing her steps, I want to focus on her feet, right? So I want to watch those feet moving and stepping forward, right? So we're going to cut from that to her feet, and as we focus on her feet, right, the camera's going to pan up while her hips are doing the swaying thing, right? Right, so the camera's going to kind of like pan up while she's like obviously the hip isn't going to sway that much, but I'm just kind of like so the camera, that the hip would sway there like this. All right. I need to look at the dance. I need to look at the thriller move to get this right, right? And I'm not necessarily right. So then the hip will sway again. All right. With their arms out like that. Right. This is again showing you just how kind of like easy the whole Sakuga thing is, right? So even this rough storyboard will give you kind of an example of even like this, how you can do all that moving camera stuff that everybody thinks is so clever, right? So you'll pan up the legs with the hips moving, and then we'll kind of like finish on a low angle with her constantly swaying her hips in this pose like this, right? So I need to animate that properly. I need to look at how that works, but that's where my head is, right? So we'll pan up, we'll go into that pose, so she'll come out here, hit that pose, and then we'll go like that. But that's jumping the gun a bit, just showing you where my brain is at, what I'm planning to do. Let's focus on moving this character, but before we do so, I'm gonna have a quick look at the chat. Right, so the next, so I'm gonna edit, cut, I'm gonna pick my live action breakdown, right? Control V, right? So the drawing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the kick pose, right? I'm gonna do the kick pose next. I'm not gonna do this one, I'm not gonna do this one, and I'm not gonna do this one. These are keys. This is an extreme, and this is a breakdown to me, right? The reason this is an extreme is because she's kicked her leg out, right? So I'm gonna turn this foot already into that position, right? So the foot's already in that position. I'm going to kind of make a scribble of that life drawing, right? And I'm going to kick the leg higher, right? I'm going to kick it higher than it was in the live action, right? Right, we're going to kick it higher. And I'm going to play with that folding of the arms with the hand open like that, right? And I'm going to put the head here like that, right? And as she does that, her hair is going to come back, right? So that's my breakdown to get into that, right? Right? Now if you look at one of the master animators out there called Nick Ranieri, who did the Cusco dancing in The Emperor's New Groove, and some of you might be able to see it on YouTube, but there's a DVD edition of it, which is where I saw it. He didn't draw the character in like this. He animated the whole thing with this kind of figure hair like this. So that illustrates my point, you know. If you're not confident, and Nick's very confident, don't get me wrong there, but if you're a beginner or you're trying to do this and you're not confident, hold back on the drawing, please, please, please. Right, okay. We have got some people in the chat. Dylan Royer, how are you? Cultures, Scene Art, finished my ball and pendulum exercise. Awesome. Have you posted it in the group? Let's see. Let's have a quick check. Has anything in the group regarding that? No, Kristen Tennant's post is still at the top. Why is this taking so long? How do we refresh the browser? Let's just press that again. Okay. Cameron's skeleton drawing. Cameron, I really want you to slow down now. I know these are your quick drawings, but I want you to be really careful. You see, you're getting all this bumpy drapery, which is very vague. And you got to move on from that now, because you're kind of doing the right things, but I feel you've gotten into the habit of leaving things at that stage. I want you to slow down and produce a really finished drawing of one of these, right? Like I said to Hervonia, you're filling it up, you're getting it, but if you don't finally take it that step further and do a really labored finished drawing, spend a whole day on the drawing if you have to, Cameron, then it's going to carry on being like this, but only just marginally better, right? So we need to move forward in that area, right? So I can't see any ball and pendulum exercises. Oh, what's this? Is this it? Finally finished the complete pendulum. I'm not that impressed, but I tried to. I'm actually kind of proud. Okay, let's have a look. Maybe this is you. If it's not, it's interesting to see, because this is where the real animation, like you guys are watching all this, but this, her leg is like a pendulum, right? Her hair is like a pendulum. Her head, her hips, her knee joint are like bouncing balls, right? So you don't need to wait for my approval. I can't guarantee approval. I can't guarantee approval. Listen, real animate. I'm gonna look at this and I'm gonna give you my feedback. It's great that we can do this online when I've got the time. But real animator training is a journey, not just of learning how to animate. It's a journey of self-discovery, self-awareness, and self-belief. Right? You have the faculties to look at the screen and to follow what I'm doing, but not follow what like a monkey copying, monkey see, monkey do, right? You're listening to the points I'm making. We're doing it together, step by step. Oh, I'm drawing a line, you're drawing a line, and you're listening to what I'm saying. But then afterwards, you're going to look at your own work and you're going to be honest. How close is it to the original? And what are my takeaways from it, right? So the ultimate approval it needs is your approval, right? Now, true, you're just at the beginner phase, and when there are people who get through the advanced archive, heaven knows, I mean, even I was incredibly insecure in my own abilities for many years, even as an experienced pro. And Glenn Keane often talks about imposter syndrome and this kind of thing. So one of the things I've tried to do with real animator training is to encourage people to see that they're the real deal. So let's have a look at this. Nice. 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 Oh yeah. I'm liking that. Let me loop that. You know what? I don't even need to slow that down. That's pretty spot on to the exercise. You're slowing in, you're slowing out. The length of the rope or the string that's holding the ball does never once feels like it's too long or too short. The mass is evenly distributed. I'm not gonna, even if your thing was, probably like 75% of what it is now, you're ready to move on to the next exercise, because real animator training is not about staying on the same thing until you perfect it. Perfection is an illusion. Perfection, P for perfection, P for procrastination, right? You're not doing this to get good at animating balls and pendulums and strings. You're doing this to be eventually able to do something like this one day, right? The way you see me effortlessly doing that. So you're filling all these rules into your subconscious, right? By going through the training exercises, and eventually one day you'll watch in wonder as the work unfolding before you is by the creation of your own hand, and you'll wonder how it all happened. It all happened because you trained yourself the right way. So great work. culture scene art, I do not really have anything really to say about that, other than you followed the exercise incredibly well. But my hope is that you understood what timing, arcing, and slowing in and slowing out is when doing this exercise, that you truly understand that you can draw a chart and you can understand from that chart, because that's what, when you get to this stage of the pendulum exercises, that's what the real takeaways are, right? Because you can copy, but the real takeaways are when we work out the timing, we work out the halving. And the halving, what is a half? How much are we halving? How long is it going to take? The slow in, the slow out, the 24 frames, right? So as long as you've understood that stuff, culture scene art, then that's it looks like you're winning, but as long as you've understood that stuff, that's when you're really winning, right? Awesome. Fantastic. I don't know why that was 11 hours ago, why that was so low down the wall when all of this other stuff I've seen and I've liked before. But anyway, thanks for sharing that. Okay, so now let's jump into the breaking this down. So now I'm going to look at this pose, right? I'm going to look at this pose. And I'm going to try and gracify it, right? So first things first, I'm going to use a smaller brush, right? So the foot has stepped to the side. So this foot is stepped to the side now. Right? Even though I don't want to work clean, one thing I really want to get right is my feet. Otherwise the last thing you want is a sliding character. There's a scene in Aladdin where they're fighting over Jasmine's future, and she walks in and says, "How dare you," right? And I saw it on the big screen and I kind of said, wow, that's really bad. Even though Aladdin was one of my favorite films and I absolutely worshipped Glenn Keane at the time, when I see things I don't pretend that I don't. And I was only 15 years old. Aladdin's feet were not solid on the floor. He was sliding around like this and like that, and wasn't good, right? So here I've got my foot right. That's all I want at the moment, right? So now I've got to think about the hip, right? So her hip is gonna be up because the weight is on this leg, right? So her hip is up like that and her shoulder is like that, and it's gonna kind of change, right? So that's a good way to do the keys as well, because the hip and shoulder line here is the other way, right? So it's the other way. So these are the things that I'm thinking about before I start drawing, right? How to get a feel. Now the body's turned to the side, right? So if the body's turned to the side, I want a little bit of a side contour to help me get that, right? Before I start. So I'm doing this kind of egg timer thing, right? I'm not going to draw a ball, right? I prefer to draw egg timer and then feel my way around the, the torque, right? So the middle contour line is like this, right? Her belly is there, her belly button's there. The middle contour line's like this, right? So I've got my egg timer here. I've got my side contour right here, like this. But now I'm going to start thinking about the legs, right? So I'm just going to kind of float this thigh here like this. There's going to be a bend in that. Right? So we've got, I have to think about it in relation to this pose too. Right? And now I'm going to put this, I'm going to kick her leg higher, right? So I'm going to draw a straight line like that. And I'm going to have the under thigh, the knee, right? That's going to help me find the knee. Look how the knee is in line with the other knee, right? Even though I'm coming out and kicking the leg, right? Exaggerating, right? Now, I have kind of got too much going out here with nothing much to balance it, but I think it's okay. I might see the bottom of the shoe, right? In that instance, I might see the bottom of the shoe rather than pointing the foot, right? I'm going to see the bottom of the shoe, and we're going to have the heel. Right. Some would like to point that foot, but I don't want to, right? I'm going to have it. I'm going to see the sole of the foot instead. Right, like that. So this is where I'm going to think about the hips, right? So this you could create a butt there like that, but I want to keep it clean, right? One clean swoop, right? And the hip is going to be here like this, right? So we've got something like that. Now the clavicle sits in the middle here. Now I'm going to have the shoulder hunched up, right? So this is where shoulder anatomy comes in. So the scapula, Hervonia Baker, now look how I'm talking about scapula. It's that triangle element at the back, right? So I'm going to be seeing that of the scapula, and there's going to be a stretch on the body here, squash and stretch in the drawing, right? Then this arm is going to come under and around like that. I'm going to have her bottom fingers there like that, and we're going to open her hand, right? Going to make that big hand open there. Now I'm going to try and balance this all. See how I'm naturally doing this, right? This is why I have you doing these things, Cameron, right? Why I have you drawing those rough things. Because your subconscious will start to naturally line things up in negative space, right? See how all of this, like I'm not thinking. And also, culture, scene, art. You see what the power of real animator training, right? I'm training your subconscious more than your conscious, present conscious programming. By having you do these things, I want you to naturally do these things without doing it. Like one of my heroes, Bruce Lee, always used to say, I do not hit, it hits all by itself. When the opponent contracts, I expand. When the opponent expands, I contract. And when there is an opportunity, I do not hit, it hits all by itself. That's a piece of Zen philosophy focusing on, or maybe Taoist, focusing on, I think it's Zen Wu Wei, really. It's focusing on the art of, just naturally, instinctively doing something and it being the right thing, right? And that's when your conscious mind or your conscious awareness, I don't like the word conscious mind. There's only one mind, and by splitting it in two, we've been kind of programmed to be aware of certain things, and then we try to make everything fit. But unconsciously, the magic is happening, and we're constantly stopping it from happening if it doesn't fit or add up, right? So I'm trying to develop unconscious abilities within you as you study my animation programs, where you'll suddenly kind of like go, wow, it's all suddenly happening, it's all fitting in, it's all working for me all of a sudden. How? Well, that's because your unconscious has become competent. You're an unconscious competent, right? Conscious competent is always going to struggle. Unconscious competent is like what you see right here before you right now. Me constantly animating some of the best hand-drawn animation in the world. And I don't mince my words, it is. You know, how many people can just casually talk and knock out multi-million-dollar quality animation on a stream? Very few, you know. Maybe you can count them on your 10 fingers, maybe 20 fingers, but in this population of animators in the world, very few. So I don't need to justify myself, but to those of you who think I'm being obnoxious, it's just my personal value of myself, right? So I want you to have that kind of ability and have that kind of value for yourself too, by trusting your unconscious. Right, so we've got this pose here, right? Now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to flip it and work on it in inverse because it'll save me time, right? So I don't get any imbalances. So let's do that. Let's make it like that. Let's draw in blue this time. Right, so I'm gonna look at this face. All right. So her head design is just basically this, right? Let's talk some basic old school construction, which you hardly see me use anymore because I've gone beyond that, right? What was I saying earlier? I do not, it does it all by itself, right? So, but I'm doing this old school construction for your benefit. Right, so let's have the nose on top there like that. Right, I'm going to keep the mouth open. I'm going to keep some consistency. So when she hits this pose, she's going to close her mouth. Right. So as I've kind of switched to this finer brush, right, than the rough pencil, because the rough pencil kind of slows the machine down, I have realized that it affects the volume of the way I draw because of the thick lines of that brush. Never mind, it's an easy fix. So her eyes are going to be completely on us. I'm not going to be as tidy. I'm not going to do another tidy up of this. This is the only rough I'm doing of this drawing, right? For the moment. I'm not going to worry about the follow through and overlap on the hair because I'm drawing in inverse at the moment. I'm just getting things kind of like in the right place, and then I'll go and think about the follow through and overlap of the hair, right? Technically it should work this way, but my brain is struggling to do the left right balance of when I've designed it to animate the other way, right? So I'm just going to leave that like that. Now here I can see awkwardness going on in the pose as I'm getting more live action on it with the body, right? So I'm going to come and revise this construction, right? I'm going to come and do something like this, right? This is her back. This is her shoulder, right? This is her arm, right? Probably overdid it. I want to take out some of the live actionness of this and make it more simple, right? Have the shoulder here like that, simpler shapes. Knowing how and when to pull back on the anatomical stuff is a very challenging. The more anatomy you know, the more it kind of enters into your drawing, and it's very important because it strengthens the drawing, but depending on the design it can also create a lack of appeal, right? We want to be super careful on that. So the other shoulder will be here. With her hand. I might have her hand come out this way because it helps the silhouette. We can see her fingers more, right? We're just going to do a line like that because we have the bust. It's going to be around here like this. So her chest, right? Her pectorials will be like that, and these will just shape off it. And I'm thinking about the balance, right? Right? For the appeal and the size. So now we have we got to think about the belly, right? So the belly will be here like this, right? And as this turns to the side, that's that area, right? So the hip, the iliac crest will be here, right? The hip will be here. The femur head will be here, right? So I'm gonna kind of change that shape. I wanted to do this, right? But I'm gonna do something like this instead, right? So we're gonna go up and through like that, right? And we're gonna put the knee there, right? So we feel that, right? Now I'm gonna have, she's got chunky legs, but I think I'm gonna tone them down a bit because this is stretch, right? Squash and stretch, right? We're gonna tone that down just a tad. And we're gonna come on the side there like that. Perfect, right? So this is where the latissimus dorsi muscle will attach itself to that, right? And then you'll have external oblique on the side there like that, right? Anatomy coming in just to help me. I've got a question in a minute, but I'm going to finish this so you guys can see the anatomy aspect, right? So now we've got the hip on this side, right? With the bending of the leg. Let me turn that on. Turn that off. Right? So we got something like this, right? Now I want to think about the heel. So can you see these kind of things, Hervonia Baker, how I turn it into shapes, simple shapes, right? And we shave the anatomy back all the time as we make these shapes. Right. Okay, so I'm gonna flip it the other way and put the clothes design on. All right. So that kind of helps me move forward. See, the hair is now imbalanced because my left-right brain is wrong. Her parting is always on this side of the head, right? So you see, my subconscious didn't get that when I was drawing it inversed, right? Cheated it the other side. All right, so before I go and put the clothes in, I'm going to get a really fat brush to show you how I would then make this appealing, right? I will go around here and I will just iron out the anatomy, right? Iron out the anatomy with a nice curve that, right? Iron it all out. Right? That comes up to there. Now even the thumb, right? I'll have the thumb come into this. Shape simplification. This is the appeal and exaggeration aspect of animation drawing, right? What you're seeing happening, right? I'll come and do this head a little bit later. It's a little off. Let's just work out the hairstyle. So her hair will come back on itself, but not too much. It's pretty thick and wiry. Excuse me. She's got rock hard hairspray or gel in her hair, so it does follow through and overlap, but in a very kind of like thick, wiry way, like plasticky, right? So this will come here, here, like this, right? Well, it's thick, so it's not going to move too much at the bottom, right? So we have something like this. Notice how I don't care about the face. I care more about the flowing aspect of the pose, right? That's what will create the appealing animation, right? Okay. How are we doing for time? 1:32. I'm definitely paying attention and taking plenty of screenshots. I really love how her foot is in line with her hands and head. Absolutely, that's what it's all about. AMB, I wanted to ask a question. I usually start from the thumbnail stage, but I found out that I don't know how many frames should be in between each of those, or how do I find that out or plan my animation? All right. Perfect opportunity, right? The choice is yours, right? You don't have to buy this, but I'm just going to say that I had a live stream series. If you go join the Real Animator Training Library, you click join now, right? I'm not telling you to join the entire library, but my latest series is exactly on that. Animating a scene, the complete process from start to finish, right? So in this, it's currently on my YouTube channel. You can see the video where I've got this entire piece of animation with this guy doing this acting, right? And all of this animation was done live, most of it, right? Most of it was done live, except for the in-betweening and the coloring, right? So pretty impressive stuff. But if we look, right, the whole thing starts from my thumbnails. And I talk about how do I get from one pose to the other pose to the other pose to the other pose, right? So if we look at the various parts, I'm basically talking about why you will never fail at animation is basically because you plan your thumbnails. The next one is how to take those thumbnails and turn them into pose-to-pose animation, right? So we've got all these various aspects going on, right? In these 14 videos, right? So you can have access to these 14 videos for the price of of an Xbox, right? Or so it's about your priorities, right? If you're into gaming, if you're into Nike, somebody commented on my video, why would I pay your money for this, right? Fine, okay? Go have your small little weekend away, have a couple of nights out with your girl, and that's value money spent for you. But I'm not talking directly to you who asked me the question. I'm just generalizing about why my training system is called Real Animator Training, right? So planning and animating your thumbnails is what that is all about. But that is not necessarily going to help you if you don't understand timing, slow in and slow out, right? You got to understand all the other stuff, but basically timing, slow in and slow out is what we call timing and spacing, right? So if you watch my last live stream, okay, go to my YouTube channel, go to the live section, okay, let's do that right now. Let's do that right now. Let's go to my channel, right? Where is it? View your channel, right? So you can do this right now. Oopsie, I got the chat in instead. Hello to you all again. You can go here and you can go to live, right? And this here, the animation timing trick that most self-taught animators don't know about, right? I pretty much cover it all here, right? Now this video is 3 hours and 36, and there's a lot of rambling, but as I said, you can either listen to a master animator ramble for 3 hours and take what you can of him like a mentor, or you can just say, okay, I'm not getting what I want, I'm too busy, instant gratification, doom scrolling, I need to just find out, and then spend 10 years, 20 years of your life never getting it, right? Because you want that quick fix. So you've got this video here, right? But I'm gonna, because you've asked me, I'm gonna say it again, right? I want you, let's do this together. The old dumbs 2085. I want you to type in the chat for me how many frames to a second, right? How many frames to a second? Type it in the chat. I will sit here and I will wait. Let's do this together. Let's do some real live onboard mentoring right now for free, because you came on my stream and you asked me a question and I value that. How many frames to 1 second? Grayson, you can answer, but I'm talking to the old dumbs 2085. How many frames? I really want you to do this with me, because then we're going to really get some progress. I'm going to try and switch a light bulb on in your head right now. No, it shouldn't be 60 frames. It should not be 60 frames a second, right? This is the problem of the modern era, right? You're making life very hard for yourself. Very hard for yourself. No, it's fine, Grayson. See, Grayson is right. It's 24 frames a second. 24 frames a second. 60 frames a second is for the bullshit AI. You know, if you want to do video game technology and talk about how the FPS. But you look at any hand-drawn animation, right? And a lot of you love anime. That's nowhere near 24, right? It's still 24, right? But the drawings in anime, or some of them are only like 3 or 4 drawings for 1 second, right? Because if you like 3 times 3 is 9, right? So 3 drawings have taken up 9 frames. So 6 drawings will take up 18 frames. That's almost a second, right? 6 drawings if you're doing kind of anime, right? So hopefully that light bulb is turning on. So this is the problem with YouTube, and this is why I urge real people to join the Real Animator Training Library, because you're swimming in shit right now. There's gonna be like that breathing space, which is my channel, in the swamp of shit information on YouTube, but you're swimming in shit. And unless you get that breather and stay and breathe the good air, you're gonna be swept away by the shit, and it's gonna make your work stink. real bad. So if you come off YouTube and you go to AMB Animation, it's up to you, right? Yes, I'm trying to sell you, but for your own good. You're going to realize. But anyway, back to the free mentoring. So let's keep that light bulb bright. I hope it stays bright when this ends and you don't go back. You're not pulled away by the shit again, right? Because most people on YouTube do not have a clue about how to animate properly. Seriously, that's my personal opinion. There's only a small handful of us. And those guys like me have worked at the very top level of the animation industry, right? So, 24 frames in a second. Now, my maths is really bad, my friend, the old dumbs 2085, but let's do this again. What's half a second then? How many frames to half a second? You tell me. Type it. You shouldn't even have to think. If there are 24, this is maths even I can understand, right? If there's 24 frames to a second, how many frames are there to half a second? Okay, Theo, how many frames to half a second? Type it in. Yes, no, it is 12 frames. Not it should be 12, but you're right. It should be 12 frames. You're right. It should. It is and it should. Good. Okay. How many frames to a quarter of a second? You tell me. How many frames to a quarter of a second? Theo, my pleasure. How many frames to a quarter of a second? Let's do this. 6 frames. Wonderful. Okay. So, let's try and get a little harder, even for my terrible brain when it comes to maths. How many frames to 2 seconds? How many frames to 2 seconds? Type it. No, not 24. 48. Wonderful. And one last question. How many frames? How many frames to 1.5 seconds? One and a half seconds. How many frames? I really want this to... I want this to be a moment between the two of us that will transform your life forever. That's my goal right now. I want to transform your life forever. That's what I'm seriously wanting to do. Right? So, we have established that there are 24 frames to a second. And half a second is 12 frames. And a quarter of a second is 6 frames. And you can keep adding on after 24, right? Another 2 seconds is 48, and half is that, right? So a lot of people then think I'm talking about frames per second. And then they go back to their, sorry, I'm just going to say, dumbass brain of listening to dumbass shit on dumbass YouTube, right? Oh, I'm gonna switch. Let me do it in the droopy voice. I'm gonna switch my software to work on 12 FPS. No. We keep it on 24 frames per second. because we like to work with the entire frame rate. If we want to just have a single frame to last for the duration of one frame, we want that flexibility. We can hold each frame for as long as we want. So we can work on 12 SPS on 24 by working on 2s. That's what all of this animation is, right? All of this animation that you're looking at right now is held for 2 frames on each frame, but I'm still running it at 24 frames per second. I'm not switching the software. I'm not switching the software, all right? Because I want the flexibility. If something doesn't work, I need those extra frames, right? So I'm going to move away from that because I actually may have confused you by talking about FPS, but a lot of idiots who have been listening to idiot information have contaminated their brain with software and FPS, right? The default is always 24 frames per second. 24 frames per second. Never anything else. Never. None of this gaming 30, 60, whatever AI shit, right? Hand-drawn 24 frames per second, right? So, and the way you think. Now let's go back to your question. AMB, I wanted to ask you a question. I usually start from the thumbnail stage, but I find out that I don't know how many frames should be between each of those and how to find that out to plan my animation. Okay. These are my thumbnails, Theo. Now, we're both armed with our 24 frames per second, our 12 frames per second is half, our quarter of a second is 6 frames. We're armed with that information of breaking a second up so we can go in there and do all kinds of stuff to get it right. Okay? So these, let's make them nice and thick and black so we can see, are my thumbnails. So it's going to take 1 second to get from hair to hair, Theo. So how many frames is it going to take to get from there to there? Type it in the chat. How many frames is it going to take to get from there to there? If it's going to take 1 second, that's my decision. She's going to take 1 second to do that. You got it. So, I already have the time frame for this, for getting from this pose to this pose, right? 24 frames. So 165 plus 24. My maths is terrible, so 165 plus 20 is 185 plus 4 is 9, so 189, right? 24 frames, this is going to be 189, right? I hope my maths is right, but that's, if this was 1 and that was 24, right? So, basically, I then have to figure out what a half of the way is, what a quarter of the way is. So then I'm going to say, you know what? I think she's going to kick her leg out and she's going to recoil and land. Now this little movement here will be a quarter of a second, right? So there'll be 6 frames between here and here because that's a quick little thing. That'll take about a quarter of a second, right? So the rest of the time I'm going to play around here, right? So I'm going to think it's going to take 12, maybe it'll be like 8 frames, just more than a quarter of a second to kick her leg out, right? So maybe that's 8 frames, and then she'll get to I shouldn't have said 12 there. Sorry, I said 24. I'm confusing you. Apologies. So that's 1 to 8, right? And then another 6 frames. 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12, plus another 2 is 14, right? So 14 frames, right? So I've got around about over just half a second here, right? And then it'll take 15, 16, maybe 14 plus 2. You see how I'm working it out? So 14 plus 4, let's say that's 18. 18 plus 6, I believe, is 24. My maths is terrible. 18 plus 2 is 20, plus another 2 is 22, plus another 2 is 24. Yeah. So, then plus 6, right, is 24, right? So, my maths isn't great, but that's what I figured it out to be, right? And if I go beyond 24, the reason why I'm telling you my maths isn't great, maybe your maths isn't great. I don't want to make this about maths. Say if I'm trying to plan all this to last a second and I go to 28 or 22, right? I'll just go back and add a few frames where I want to slow in or slow out, right? And that's basically kind of like that's how it is. That's the process, right? That's how you kind of learn how to think about your thumbnails, right? So I want you to go back to my YouTube channel and to find that stream that I showed you, last week's stream of learning how to time animation, and I want you to think about the moments that we've just shared together, Theo. Hopefully that's really switched on a light bulb for you. Work within the bar of 24 frames. And why work within the bar of 24 frames? Why shall we do that? Why would we want to do that? Because it's a second, yes. And if we have a piece of animation that's more than a second, it's easy to break it down into seconds. So you say, even when you ask the question, how many seconds is it? It's 60 seconds, which is a minute. Okay. Well, how do I break down, how many frames is 60 seconds? Whoa, way too much, right? So how do I break the action down, what's happening over this minute? Well, second by second's a good way, right? Even if you have 3 basic moves, maybe one move between the 60 seconds takes 20 seconds. But then you've got to break it down. Like if he's even just lifting a glass and saying cheers and it takes 20 seconds and then he's talking, you've got to think, well, how many seconds is he going to have the glass down here? And how many seconds is he going to have it up here and nod his head? So you go back, you break it down and you think along those terms. And voila, timing becomes incredibly easy. Right? But what isn't easy is the spacing and the breaking down and the adding weight and the speed. That stuff needs to be learned by learning all of the other 12 laws of animation, which are essentially, we're going to write them out again here. We talked briefly about timing, right? And slow in and slow out. Right? Then we have the magical arcing. These are the 3 fundamental laws. Following that, we have follow through, overlap, and drag. Then we have pose to pose and straight ahead. Following that, we also have solid drawing, right? These are the 6 laws of movement. Then you have the 6 laws of life, right? Squash and stretch, anticipation, exaggeration, appeal, I missed one which should have been higher, but we'll put it down here, but really it should have been after anticipation. Primary and secondary action. And finally staging. So as you plan your thumbnails, which is what that whole seminar that I showed you earlier with the badger drinking, which I'm currently my new latest product. As you plan your thumbnails, all of these aspects have to be considered into your thumbnails. And then you have to apply the timing in relation to all of these 12 laws. That's where animation, it's still simple, but it isn't easy. That's where it becomes difficult. And that's what separates the great animators from the good animators, from the average animators to the appalling animators. So, it has been my absolute pleasure, Theo, to shed some light on that in a one-to-one manner between the both of us. Hopefully it's something that you'll never forget, and you'll be able to take it forward with you like a superpower from a Mega Man game, where you have taken the powers and they are now yours. So it's my pleasure to do that. What I'm going to do before I go back to this stream is I'm going to go over to ambanimation.com. Quite why that's happening. Let's just refresh the page. There we are, ambanimation.com. What's my browser speed like? Have I got too many things open? That's frustrating. I'm with a extremely powerful host right now, so that should not be happening. Let me go on another site. I think my internet is down. I hope I don't am I still live? Because no website is working. Yeah, I think I was having some browser issues. So I'm going to go to ambanimation.com and I'm going to click on join the Real Animator Training Library. I've still got browser issues. I can't close this browser down. So let me open a different browser. Let me go on to, it could just be the internet speed. I'm doing this on purpose, by the way, because there we are. Something's going on with Google Chrome. Look, we're having problems. There's some problems with the that's an issue, right? Okay. There's something going on with Vimeo right now. So Vimeo needs to be sorted out, because the library is in conjunction with Vimeo. So that's something that I need to solve, which I'll do off stream. But I was going to take a bathroom break, and I wanted you to see the basics archive of the Real Animator Training Library. So I'll have to do it this way. Screw it. You know what? I'm just going to open something else. Where's my old groundhopper stuff? There we are. Let's watch an old groundhopper teaser. Right. Okay. Forgive me for that. Hopefully the browser will sort itself out when I get there. Yeah, I think... I don't know, am I still live? Because my screen is spinning. I think I've got internet problems. Bandwidth ports might be kept maxed. Yeah, there's definitely some problem happening. Hopefully you can still see what I'm doing. Thank you, my friend, for the donation. I'm still live. Okay, so I'm gonna have a bathroom break, and you can watch this old groundhopper trailer teaser that I was developing for a crowdfunder. Yeah, so that was done nearly 4 years ago now. A concept kind of reel full of concept art and ideas. So not really a full storyboard, but that was something to keep you busy while I was away for a second. Right now, there was one more question before I helped Theo, and that was from my friend Real Anime. AMB, I love animating more than anything, but lately I can't seem to bring myself to create anything, and it's a bit frustrating because every time I open Harmony, it feels like I'm blank. Okay, don't open Harmony. Pick up a sketchbook, draw, practice, learn, study somebody else's animation. Do some life drawings. If you like a thriller, learn the thriller dance by breaking it down. Get up off your chair and like, I'm going to try and do what goes on here, right? So I can't dance at all, right? So she kicks it up and she comes down like that. So I'm going to work out the movements, then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to start studying and drawing. Be proactive. Staging is not storyboarding at all. No. Again, you see, this is, maybe it's sorted itself out. Has it sorted itself out? Have I got internet browser? No, I don't. This is very annoying and very worrying. I'm going to click on LinkedIn. Have I got LinkedIn? No, I don't know what's going on with my internet. I can't close the browser because somehow I'm still with you guys. Let's go on Facebook. No. This is really weird. So I've got something. I know the training library is probably still working if you click on it, but I can't. I've got some problem going on. I can't even open Twitter, right? Let's open Twitter. It's not opening, right? I've got some problem going on with my internet right now, but magically I'm still live and I'm not gonna close the screen down and do whatever, right? So let it be what it's being, right? No, I don't have a VPN. I don't have a VPN running. Yeah, so basically on ambanimation.com there's a professional archive, and that professional archive is all about the law of staging, right? And the law of staging, we've got 7 different lectures. So staging is everything, right? Staging is your editing, your composition. Like, think of it like you're a stage, right? The stage, you're on stage, right? The spotlight. What do you want the audience to see? You determine what the audience sees through your camera composition, through your set design, through your art direction. You know, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, right? What period of what is Humpty Dumpty an egg? Or is Humpty Dumpty a cannon on top of a battlement, right? That all the king's horses, right? What era is Humpty Dumpty wearing a leather jacket? Or is Humpty Dumpty wearing his Henry VIII clothes, right? Is Humpty Dumpty a guy at school, right? Who's fed up of being bullying and he's gonna go mental and he's gonna go and cause havoc, you know? Who is he, right? Is it a comedy? Is it a comedy? Is it a tragedy? How are you going to tell that? What are you basing it on? Baroque style romanticism or neoclassicalism, or are you moving towards you want it to be like anime? What decade of anime? 80s, right? My work is Gen X animation, right? I celebrate stuff done in the 80s and early 90s, right? So all of the elements of filmmaking are what staging is all about, right? So staging isn't just storyboarding, right? The storyboard artist needs to have props, backgrounds, costume, lighting for mood, right? And as he storyboards, he has to think about editing. Is he doing continuity editing, classic continuity editing? Is he doing Soviet montage editing? Staging is filmmaking. Staging is not storyboarding, it's storytelling through visual cues, right? When you look at a character like this, you immediately know what style it is, what it reminds you of. You know that it's nothing to be taken too seriously. Your subconscious immediately makes those connections. So that's what staging in a very quick way is. But as I say, in the professional archive of the Real Animator Training Library, I'm going to try it again. I've got some internet issues. Goodness gracious me. I don't know why this is happening, but I'm still live. I'm still live, and that's the main thing. By the way, if any of you feel that I have given you value in today's stream, and you value hand-drawn animation and you'd like to keep hand-drawn animation going, especially those of you who say that you're putting no AI things in your thing, that's not really going to get away. No AI art, that's not really going to keep hand-drawn animators intact. Helping hand-drawn animators is going to keep them intact. So I've received one from my friend. I'm not going to disclose his name because he hasn't even commented in the chat. But if you want to thank me or you feel I brought you any value, there's a donation link in the description. All right. Now, back to this drawing here, right? I've got to get through. I've got to get from here to here. Already we can see how that's going to happen. But we've got a nice appealing drawing here. But now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to quickly draw in our character, right? So here's now how we're going to move these shapes, right? These shapes are all simplified. So her sleeves, right, are simplified into having like, she's going to have one on top of the other and then the cuff, right? And then the cuff is going to curl around and then have a little bit of, and then the back of the jacket is going to be there, right? So then her collars are going to be careful about this, right? Because I'm going to move them this way, right? Like this, right? I'm going to move her collars this way like this, right? We can see that line is happening there. And then the other colors are going to be on the other side, right? So I'm going to have this here, and I'm going to have this here, and then we're going to have, I'm actually going to see less of that button, which comes there like that. Got a bit of the bust there, like that. And the neck comes through here like that, right? So now there's also this part of the jacket which I have to bear in mind, right? So I'm gonna, this part here, right? So I've got to think how that's gonna fold and crease, right? So I'm gonna have that come in here like this, right? And then we've got the buttons coming off here like that, and that's gonna be hidden behind there like that. So we've got something like that, right? Then we're going to have the arm come off here like this. I'm going to focus on the one finger out, and I'm not going to join all the fingers together. I'm going to keep them, actually, yeah, I'm going to join them. Keeps them stiff like that. No, I want to keep that kind of scary zombie thing, so let's just play it like that. This hand I'm going to make bigger than the other hand because I want it to read, right? That's a little secret that a lot of people don't know about. And if you're obsessed with volume, you'll never get it, right? Because it'll just appear for 1 or 2 frames and it'll really read in the subconscious mind of the viewer, right? So this I'm going to have like this. Like that. Now, this part of the jacket is gonna be here, right? This is where we could have some volume issues with the jacket, right? Because we're turning it onto the side. So I'm just gonna cheat it and just have the bust come in like that, right? Really, it wouldn't do that, but I've got to distribute the mass to sell the illusion. Now I'm gonna put in a few creases on the side of the jacket there like that, right? Along there, right? So we have got the belly button here, right? And the pants. I'm gonna play with the line of the iliac crest of the hip for the pants, right? Like that. Right? Then I'm gonna come make this a smooth as possible. Right. Like that. Then we're going to have a line here and a line here. Right. Now we have to think about the leg warmers, right? So again, the distance is going to be about here. We're squashing and stretching this, right? So we're going to break it into chunks, right? So we're going to have 1, 2, but we're going to change the angle like this, right? And then we're going to throw in a little thing there like that. And then we're going to have another 1, but I'm going to have that come off this side here like this, right? So we've got the leg warmer coming up. We're going to see the bottom of the shoe. We're going to keep it in line, right? So our structure is not messed up, all right? This one here, we're going to have we don't see that, so we got to focus on this leg warmer. Again, the whole fact she's wearing leg warmers with the Thriller outfit is a throwback to the 1980s, but those girl workout videos from the 80s, because Gracie Goodbear is a pin-up, right? And she's not a 50s, 40s pin-up. She's an 80s pin-up, right? Or she can be anything she wants because she does cosplay. But I want, even if she's being a 50s, it's going to have an 80s spin on it, right? Because that's the Gen X vibe of the character, right? Now another thing about this is we're going to play with the side stripe of the pants, right? So we've got something like this. Now I'm going to look at the hair, the face, because I kind of rushed the face. So we've got one eye width apart, right? That's probably more like one eye width apart. This is how we keep the form and volume, by understanding the structure of the face. We keep that expression. And put the nose up here. Teeth. And the mouth. this. There we go. Now, I've got to really think about the chin and the neck here, because that can make or break the drawing. So we have got the side elements there like that. The ear is going to come in here. We won't see the other ear, and the head is going to be something like that. Yep. So we're going to put in the side parting, and we're going to have a little bit of drag on that hair, but not too much, because as I said, it's going to be like really gooey and gloopy, like too much wax and not much follow through overlap, just kind of bouncy, wiry follow through and overlap on the texture, right? Which if I play the animation, you'll see. How are you doing, Hangover City, Sneak, Ginai? So let's go to the animation. So if we play this, you'll see the way the follow through and overlap occurs on the hair. It's very springy, right? I don't want it to be, I want you to feel the texture as if, you know, it's got a lot of grease and wax and a quality to it that's not gonna be so flowy, right? But we still want to have follow through, overlap and drag, right? We don't want the animation to be stiff and unappealing, right? So this is where again I'm going to put some follow through here, but I'm going to really weight it. I'll break it up when we exit the drag. Right. Maybe I have a little bit of a hair on this side here to balance that silhouette a little bit. Okay, so we've got this pose. Let's put those back to being that color. So we've gone from there to there to there, right? So we've got that. So we now need to do the next breakdown, which will be this one. So edit cut. We'll have a bit of fun. We won't do the getting into this yet, right? We'll do the one, the juicy one that kind of links them. So here I have to think about my arcs, because I can look at these and sequentially just copy. I have to think about my arcs, right? So she's going to kind of bounce down on this foot here, so she's going to go low. I'm going to have her go lower than the extreme, right? I'm going to put more bouncy in my animation, right? So I'm going to put her knee beyond, right? Beyond, right? But then I'm going to have her other leg come up like this. Now notice how I'm keeping everything structured in here like this. So I'm not copying this. I'm using the live action as inspiration, but I'm really overdoing it, right? Really overdoing it. Really exaggerating it, right? Now we're going to have her come out of that pose. But I'm going to have the arc like this, not like this, right? I'm going to have the arc like this. And this arc is going to go down and up, right? So I'm going to already have it go out like that. She looks like she's being like the Karate Kid, right? Okay, you probably don't understand this right now. Maybe some of you do. But like, this is how I like to animate, because the drawing is the easy part, right? A lot of you think the drawing and the volume is the hard part, right? That's the easy part. Getting this to be good and not settling for just something that looks like it, right? Now I'm going to drag her head up. I'm gonna have a lot of fun with her head, right? I'm gonna drag her head up. I'm gonna really open that mouth, because she's gonna do this with her teeth, right? I'm gonna have her like, she is a classic bimbo, right? Unapologetically a classic bimbo. I do not like have Theo. It's been a pleasure helping you, like, just for free on this thing. But if there's so many people that want to submit work to me, I don't charge for any mentorships or one-to-ones at the moment. I'm thinking of doing that, but the only real way to learn from me at the moment right now is through my Real Animator training program. I can't open it. I can try and open it on Firefox. We opened it before. Facebook, all right? For some reason, my internet is not working, yet I am able to be live. On Facebook, I have a group, right? If you go, there's a group called the Real Animator Training Growth, Development and Progress group on Facebook. If you post work on there, I can't promise that I'm going to look at it. I don't even promise that I'll look at training library members' work, right? My training library is, to some people they think it's costly. But I have CalArt students who've paid 100K for their degree, Don Bluth students who've paid 10K for their degree. I have had people who've worked for Disney, people who've worked for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sign up to my training. And you can get my training library for the price of a gaming console, comparatively. So in order for me to sell it at that price and provide amazing value for you people, I can't then offer my one-to-one feedback. Because my one-to-one feedback, we're talking like in the tens of thousands, right? I don't want to sell my training course for that much, because I want this to be accessible and available for everyone. Now, there are some people who you're just not going to please, because they think a video game system or an iPad or a weekend away for, with your significant other is worth more than a lifetime's worth of animation training, right? I can't help those people, right? But I think most of you who want to be real can understand that what the Real Animator Training Library is. I have been considering doing one-to-one mentorship sessions, but then again, I have to work out a way where that fits my calendar. So presently, there is no way of personally guaranteeing that I will look at your work, right? But thanks for that. I'm glad. It's not your bad. It's not your bad at all, Theo. I'm glad that you feel inspired, and I'm glad that you felt the energy of me trying to help you. And it's my pleasure. But presently, at the moment, I don't have that opportunity open. But thanks for asking. All right. So now we're going to go into this pose, right? So let's quickly draw this one up. We've done a lot of talking, but surprisingly, I may have time to do what I wanted to originally do on this stream. But the talking's fine because I'm actually online for you guys, right? So let's talk about what we're doing here. Now, I now know that I'm going to get out of that to that, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to really add some weight to this animation, right? So I said that the knee is going to go beyond what it was, right? So I'm going to have her get down low, right? So that leg is going to be down low there like that. But now I'm going to change the angle a little bit, right? We're going to see the up leg like this. And again, without, to those people who don't draw, that look at a character like Gracie Goodbear and think that, oh yeah, you drew that with one hand, man. Like, they don't realize that, like, for me, what excites me isn't the drawing of her legs or anything like that. Is the ability to consolidate my anatomical knowledge to get interesting poses. So yes, I'm having an up angle with the butt hair like this, right? But it's not the drawing of the butt that I'm getting satisfaction out of, right? I'm getting satisfaction out of really flexing my ability to draw the complexity of the human form in an appealing way that has exaggeration, appeal, weight, perspective and angle to it completely effortlessly. That's what, that's power, right? That is real power. That is amazing power, a skill to have, right? And not many people have that, where they can just off the cuff, just from their own imagination. I've used reference here, but I'm changing the reference because, quite frankly, that's what cartooning is, right? So I'm going beyond that, and I'm literally flexing my drawing abilities, and that's the pleasure I get out of it, right? So at first, when you start doing things online, some of this stuff gets to you, right? At first it used to get to me when I used to get comments like that. Now I laugh, because really they're comments from complete ignorance, right? I actually pity the people. I literally do. They simply don't understand. They don't know how to draw. They don't know what anatomy drawing is. They don't know what any of that stuff is. All they know is that the trend points this way, and they look, and then it's time to be outraged. Go ahead. I'm getting pleasure out of something that artists have always done since the beginning of time, which is drawing the human form, right? And exploring and taking satisfaction from my mastery of my ability to do that, right? You can see how actually cold and calculated this is, right? It's like, many people, like I watch all these old shows like Ally McBeal and shows where they do the life model class, life drawing, and they really think, ooh, a naked person, it's immediately got to be so sexual, right? Yes, I'm not pretending that this pin-up character isn't sexual, but the process of actually doing and drawing it, right? It's very kind of like routine. You're thinking about getting it right. You're thinking about the drawing. You're thinking about, okay, what's the left-right balance right? What's the hip shoulder counterbalance? Is my drawing appealing? Have I captured the weight of the pose? Right? Is it off balance? Right? You're thinking about all those things when you're doing it. You're not sitting there going, oh, look at that, yeah, mate, yeah. What goes on in these people's minds? That's why it gives me a pleasure doing streams like this. Chat disconnected. Okay. Am I still live? I'm going to check. Because the chat is disconnected. Am I still live? I'm not getting any internet. I have no way of knowing if I'm live or I'm not live. It says I'm live, but I can't even get internet on this thing. So, I tell you what, I don't know if I'm live or if I'm not live, but I'm just going to carry on streaming and carry on working like I'm live, and I'm going to take it to the point where I think I've taken it, and if I can't take it any further, I'm just going to end the stream and it'll be what it'll be. There's something very odd going on here. It says unable to chat. Please try again later. Let me refresh. I may need to reset my router. That's what may need to be done. But let me go and see what's going on with the router. Be like one of those things, so I'm just going to go and reset the router. So, oh yeah, there's no Wi-Fi. Yeah. Alright, if you guys can magically hear me, because for some reason it's been working and not working, I'm going to reset my router, so I'm going to go offline and I'm going to go online again, right?